या कुन्देन्दु तुषारहार धवला या शुभ्रवस्त्रान्विता या वीणां वरदण्डमण्डितकरा या श्वेत पद्मासना या ब्रह्माच्युत शंकर प्रभृतिभिः देवैः सदा पूजिता सा मां पातु सरस्वती भगवती निःशेषजाड्यापहा।
हंताय मावाम चित्रमाल विभूषिताय मावाम अमप्रदाय मावाम वध्याय मावाम विद्याधराय मावाम शुभजिदाय मावाम नीलभुजाय मावाम स्वर्णाय मावाम साम्राज्याय मावाम रक्तमाल्याय मावाम नीलांगजाय मावाम हंसवाहनाय मावाम ब्रह्मा विष्णु शिवास्मिनाय मावाम ओम श्रीं सरस्वती देवताभ्याय मावाम नानाविध फलवत्र पुष्पाणि समर्पयामि। हरि ओम यो वां पुष्पं वेद पुष्पवान् प्रजावान् कुसुमान् बोधे चन्द्रमावान् वां पुष्पं पुष्पवान् प्रजावान् कुसुमान् बोधे या एवं वेद यो वामायतनं वेद आयतनवान् बोधे अग्निर्वामायतनम् आयतनवान् बोधे यो अग्निरायतनं वेद आयतनवान् बोधे आपो वै अग्निरायतनम् आयतनवान् बोधे या एवं वेद यो वामायतनं वेद आयतनवान् बोधे अशो वै दमन्नवामायतनम् आयतनवान् बोधे यो अमुष्यवदवामायतनं वेद आयतनवान् बोधे आपो वै अमुष्यवदवामायतनम् आयतनवान् बोधे या एवं वेद यो वामायतनं वेद आयतनवान् बोधे नक्षत्रानिर्ववामायतनम् आयतनवान् बोधे यस्नक्षत्राणाम् आयतनं वेद आयतनवान् बोधे आपो वै नक्षत्राणाम् आयतनम् आयतनवान् बोधे या एवं वेद यो वामायतनं वेद आयतनवान् बोधे वज्रनस्य वामायतनम् आयतनवान् बोधे यस्वजनस्यायतनं वेद आयतनवान् बोधे आपो वै वजनस्तवामायतनम् आयतनवान् बोधे या एवं वेद यो वामायतनं वेद आयतनवान् बोधे सम्मस्रो वामायतनम् आयतनवान् बोधे यस्सम्मस्रस्यायतनं वेद आयतनवान् बोधे आपो वै सम्मस्रस्यायतनम् आयतनवान् बोधे या एवं वेद यो शवनाभं प्रतिष्ठितं वेद वृद्धेवतिष्ठते राजाधिराजाय बृहस्पतये नमो भयं वै द्रवणाय हुन्महे शवेत्कामान्तकामाय मत्स्यः कामेस्रो वै श्रवणाय धाले कुबेराय वै श्रवणाय महाराजाय नमो नमः अखिलाण्डगौरिः ब्रह्माण्डनायां सरस्वती देवताभ्यो नमः मंत्रपुष्पां समर्पयामि। फलदानि निवेद्यं निवेदयामि समर्पयामि। आनंद स्फुरः निराजं दर्शयामि। सर अरे सर स्वाम राजाय वेदवाय नमो भयं वै धनायुक्ते तमेन कामङ्गामाय वन्दहं नामे त्रोभवे श्रवणाय भावे कुबेराय वै श्रवणाय महाराजाय नमो नमः। ओम महादेवे च विद्महे विष्णुमहादेवाभ्याः धीमहि ॐ अग्निदेवताभ्यो नमः नमस्काराय नमस्कारयामि ओम श्री महामंत्रस्य महादेवताभ्यो नमः नमस्काराय प्रभुदेवाय वैष्णवाय महाराजाय नमो नमः ओम श्री महादेवताभ्यो नमः समर्पयामि ओम
very, very particular that we start not on time, and so if God grace, we are able to do that. So I will start. I welcome every one of you who has taken time off on weekday to be with us to celebrate the legacy of Sudha. Her elder sister is an inspiration to me. She's here, and she is the soul and the mind behind this entire academy. So please take your seat while I take you to a brief presentation where I should be able to give those people who are not aware of the legacy of philosophy and the teachers. After that, Dr. Richa will talk about the legacy of Dr. Verma. Next, please. If you give me that, I will rush you the list. Otherwise, somebody. So this medici effect.
Okay, like this one, the time no
and I wish my neuroscience students also learn their time so that they can understand what is the importance of this medici effect. It is just that one or two minds can transform and change the entire ethos, the level of civilization suddenly rises within a matter of few months. So Lorenzo Medici in Italy, Florence, transformed the entire landscape, and they were the main people responsible for the Renaissance as we know it. Then we realized it is this one man who started the torch of this is not working. So we celebrated 100th birthday a few years back, and that is the time I made this presentation. And if you can off the lights, it will be better visualized. So please have the lights off. So this is a Ramurti cutting cake. As you can see, I will go through this very rapidly because there are a lot of slides, and I hope you can carry a lot of enthusiasm of this great man. You can see Dr. Vasudevan, the current head of department, he is standing there, and then Dr. Ramurti. Most of these awards are now in the museum. A lot of them are available here. And as you can see, these are the secretary staff who were there with him. And from the day one, after his retirement from MMC, the next academic phase began in PHS. And I personally feel that this was a great part of his achievement.
This will come.
So this is a book I would recommend to all my students of neuroscience who have come. And this is the famous Lorenzo the Magnificent, the banker. He utilized this money to be gracious, like Dr. Richa has donated for the legacy and knowledge. These people are brilliant bankers. They were funding the kings of Europe. Not only that, with the money they made, they made sure that that was the world's center. So now you have these uniting minds who have led to this brilliance. And this is a brilliant man, Robert Hooke, who was so powerful a person that Newton was jealous of him. And so when Newton became the president after him, he made sure that the Robert Hooke's picture was removed from all records, from the Royal Society. So just look at this. So this man is the foundation of modern neuroscience in a way. And this is an imagined photograph because the real one was made sure that it was wiped out by none other than Sir Isaac Newton. So this is the Indian Renaissance, and I feel that with our collaboration with IITs, we should cross the next barrier soon. And this is him in his young age, and this is Harvey Cushing on this side. He was very impressed, and as you can notice, that I noticed that he was impressed with Harvey Cushing. So he wanted a picture of his taken with a book in his hand like that. So you watch what all he did. Use of ophthalmoscope, experience with pituitary tumor, going traveling all over the world, making sure that Indian neurosurgery was represented at the best places and on equal terms. He was very particular that we should not lick the white man boots, and this was repeated to us that you should achieve excellence on your own. And he did that. He did that remarkably, as you can see. He stood, this is the great Norman dog. So he stood with all these giants on equal par, despite the fact he came from a very improvised place. So much of fun in him. So you can see that all over the world he traveled, carrying the brilliance of Indian neurosurgery and bringing back the brilliance of neurosurgery from all over. So I'm going to go very fast. There was the Shah of Iran, and these are the various pictures. I run this through all orations because Professor Sanjeevi, Professor Ramamurthy, this is the great Majid Sami, this is the Nepal king. So now he was at the helm and make sure that neurosurgery of practiced in a trust hospital was equal to what practiced in any American university. So this is him in Korea, all over the world, and this was the face of Indian neurosurgery. And towards the end of the presentation, I show you how that phase of neurosurgery, we are not only continuing the Indian tradition, but we are placed very high in the internationally. He was very fond of history of medicine, and his father-in-law, Achanta, set up chairs of history of medicine. And this is him giving a lecture and saying that he is very fond of history. This microscope is there in our library. This is the great Wilder Penfield, one of the fathers of modern neurosurgery, and that is Dr. S.T. Narasimhan, another pioneer neurologist, and of course my teacher Veeramurthy. So now you can see the adoration he had for the senior man, and remember that Wilder Penfield's teacher was Sir Charles Sherrington, the Nobel Prize winner in neurophysiology. So now I'll just go even more rapidly. You can see the way he set up neurosurgery here, single-handedly. This is him in the theatre. He got this put in the cover of Neurology India. This picture only Anil Pandey knows it is in the library. So now it is on common domain. And this is him again operating. This is doing neurosurgical research in the 50s. So now he kept updating himself. Look at the way he kept on writing. We are still trying to bring out the collected papers of Dr. Ramamurthy maybe 10 years later because the number of papers are so large. This is Indira Gandhi, whom he cured of a pain in the leg by asking her to change her chappals. This is Patnaik. So I'm just going even more rapidly to show you that this gentleman transformed neurosciences this part of the world. And it's not only that he did this from this, no. He did it for the love of neurosurgery, and that love we are trying to project. This is his teacher, Professor Sanjeevi, and you can see this is what you are sitting now. It was once beautiful. I would actually like that, but unfortunately time go on. So this is the original place, and as you can see, this was there, and IIT was next. I don't think IIT came at that time also. And this is Jawaharlal Nehru inaugurating this hospital, and this is the great Sanjeevi. He brought with him brilliant people, including Dr. Badrinath, the founder of China. This is the earlier X-rays, and this is the second institute is founded. So this is a lovely picture with his scooter and Dr. Indira Ramamurthy, another person I really admire. And this is the theatres. This is Dr. Vincent Kamburaj, and so on. So we are rapidly going through this. and this was he was honored by most of the societies. This is the micro neurosurgery workshop which is there. That's me standing at the back, and I just go through rapidly. Now that's Dr. Vasudevan, and that's me, and that's him operating. He will always come in, he will always be interested, and so this is a legacy which we continue in our department. And he was computer savvy. That room which I took you there, that is his room, that the computers which he used to work on. And this is what one liaison which we tried. The national board has been here from the beginning. This is one of the courses that the Royal College had in collaboration with the national board which I was there. And this is them. So Dr. Sanjeevi and this. And I invite you all to come and be part of this, because the international launch of this classic, it's a classic. Now it is a 4-volume text written by Indians, because we believe Indian neurosurgery is the top, and we are trying to make sure that it is released globally. You have brilliant people who have written, and it's from all the centers in the country, and a lot of Indian neurosurgeons who have achieved. But as Dr. Ramudi was particular, it has to be Indians who write, because it's Indian neurosurgery which has got the volumes. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Can I invite Dr. Joseph Williams? He is the director of the institute, and he will also enlighten you. Thank you so much, sir, for accepting our invitation.
I'm looking at this.
Thank you. It was a fascinating oversight of the history of not only neurosurgery in DHS, but some of the colorful aspects. I was noticing that photo of Dr. MCD. So the smile remains the same. Some other things have changed.
Tilted it.
Respected Professor Dr. MCD was
Screen and them. You have to
surgery,
display.
just DHS. Rahul Srinivasan,
Same.
dignitaries, colleagues from DHS, good friends from NAC College of Nursing, students and audience. First of all, on behalf of DHS, on behalf of the Secretary, Professor Suresh, who is away at the moment, it's a privilege for VHS to host this third Kamala Devaji Endowment Oration for Paediatric Neurosciences in the memory of this distinguished and accomplished professor of pediatric neurology. I was just looking around, and apart from her stellar academic credentials and publications, I was reading about how she did her MBBS in MMC, went to CMC Vellore, and I was reading a letter that was given by Dr. Webb as a testament for her outstanding work there. There were two words that stood out in his letter to me, which I think really characterizes the stalwart of neurosurgery. One was the thoroughness, and the other one was the conscientiousness. I was just talking with a colleague yesterday, and we were looking at a patient who was referred from another hospital. We are seeing the number of issues that were probably missed. That's where again I reflect on that thoroughness and conscientiousness were two hallmarks of Professor Kamala Devaji. I think that's a beacon of light for us as we continue following some of her footsteps. I was fascinated when I looked up the Sudha Gopalakrishnan Brain Center in IIT Madras. I saw all the images. And the first thing, was written in your lecture is going to be on the multimodal characterization of the fetal brain. We had Professor Kamagurgi came and inaugurated the cath lab. A lot of mathematics that he talked about went over our heads. I think your subject is slightly closer to our hearts than our field. And I didn't really understand what was multimodal. Maybe in the good old days we used to look up Google. I immediately put in the chat GPT. What is multimodal? And it came back that what you're reading in chat GPT is multimodal. So it's fascinating, ma'am, the work that you're doing. Looking at neuroanatomy. Bring the cutting edge of neuroscience, engineering. I also saw that your aim is to be a leading center for R&D, research and development globally, and I think definitely probably well on that way. Therefore, it's no surprise that this flagship department of VHS, which was established by the legendary, in fact, BRM, I think the point that I was very attracted was always wondering how did he become a brigadier when he was in the army, because I didn't know that. Everybody said Brigadier Ramuthan has very impressed that how come he's a neurosurgeon and one of his brigadier. So I think today I just want to reflect on two aspects. First of all,
For my
we have a
presentation,
number
just
of orations, and I
slide
sometimes wonder
okay,
what is the purpose of these orations. But the Department of Neurosurgery, if you don't mind me saying on Vasudevan,
keep it in the TV.
is that anything you do, always you do in style.
Yeah.
There's some things personal which I won't mention here, where I always comment
Video
on
is going on.
Dr. Vasudevan's style. It's quite apt to bring these various departments and institutions of these stalwarts, Dr. Sanjeevi, Mr. BRM, Badrinath, etc. And as my good friend Dr. Anil was going through the history, I was also reflecting, why do we talk so much about history? I think history also, one of the points that I remember from one of my school teachers was,
We have to
those who don't learn from history are destined to repeat the mistakes of history. So I think it's very important that we ground ourselves in the past as we look towards the future. These orations give us an insight into these stalwarts who have gone before us and are also a tribute to their dedication and inspiration that continues as a beacon for generations of medical professionals. Dr. Richa, Verma, I think you have very aptly caught the point that she was a professor of pediatric neurology. Therefore, I'm sure my mentor, Dr. Suresh, will be really missing this, that the characterizations of the fetal brain sound to be very, very fascinating. So on behalf of VHS, very warm welcome to all of you in the audience. I sincerely hope that this oration will not only inspire new ideas, but will also bring about a spirit of collaboration
I'm forwarding you
and encourage the
email.
young
The email is
professionals
open now.
to pursue such excellence in this field. Thank you. Again, a warm welcome to all of you, and especially the family of Dr. Kamala Devaji. Thank you.
Very good morning, everyone. It is both an honor and privilege to stand before you today. Members of this gathered for the third oration dedicated to celebrate the life and legacy of Dr. Kamala Devaji, a visionary, a healer, and a teacher for excellence. I'll start my presentation with a quote. A great teacher inspires, but the greatest soul leaves a legacy that never fades. Pediatric neuroscience reveals how the young brain grows, heals, and adapts, unravels the intricate connection between development, disease, and recovery in the developing brain. Pediatric neurology tackles complex neurological disorders that affect children from infancy to adolescence. Pediatric neurosurgery balances the precision with fragility of young nerves. The art of gender complexity and the delicate manipulation of the growing nervous system. The wiring of young brains. Connectomes in pediatric neuroscience. Mapping connectomes help us decode the wiring of developing minds. Emerging frontiers in pediatric neuroscience aim to build the future of child brain health step by step. Cutting edge tools like magnetic resonance spectroscopy, real-time functional MRI, stereo EEG, laser ablation and gene therapy are transforming the pediatric care. neurodevelopmental insight and technology integration. Telemedicine and wearable tech enhance access to expert care, enable real-time monitoring of neurological conditions. Machine learning and neural network revolutionize the diagnosis and treatment of disorders like autism, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, improving accuracy and timing. Advanced technologies break down geographical barriers, making personalized neurological care. Technology and AI expand access, accuracy, and innovation in neurology. Dr. Kamala Devaji, a beacon in pediatric neurology. She was born on September 17, 1935 to Mr. Devaji Rao and Radha. Grew up with her elder sister, Professor Usha. Raised in an environment that valued education and perseverance. MBBS at Madras Medical College, 1957 to 1961. DCH and MD Pediatrics at Christian Medical College, Bangalore, 1979 to 1981. First Professor of Pediatric Neurology in India. Pioneered the department in Institute of Child Health, Madras. A teacher and a wonderful mentor. Some of her publication, hot water epilepsy in children, role of genetics in neurological problems in children. At that time, hot water epilepsy is a reflex epilepsy which is endemic in southern India, southern states like Andhra, Karnataka, Tamil Nadu. Profile of malnutrition, handicapped child, antiseptic, number 2072, 1972. Real-time ultrasonography in neuromuscular problems of children, September 1985. A global speaker, invited to many symposiums and conferences, presented over 50 papers at national conferences and international conferences. Recommendation letter from Dr. Webb, who first started post-graduation in CMC window. Dr. Kamala's work is extremely thorough and reliable. She is proficient in technical procedure involved in the care of sick children and has a very pleasant persona that enhances her relationship with colleagues and patients. This picture is taken and she is receiving gift from Sudha at CMC window. Her colleagues admire her skill, compassion and reliability. The Indian Academy of Pediatrics has recognized and honored her for outstanding career and service. Beyond medicine, she likes to play veena, writing poetry, enjoyed Sanskrit literature, and she is philanthropist. These are the poems written by Dr. Kamala. Post-retirement, she continued as senior consultant Apollo since 1993. She took telemedicine appointment, of which great number of patients would be from West Bengal and Bangladesh. She passed away on 12th April 2021, but her legacy continues to expand. With great respect and admiration, we honor Dr. Devaji's contribution, which continue to inspire and guide our efforts to advance pediatric neurology for children worldwide. Next, I request Dr. Annie Jackson to introduce her.
Good morning, Madam President. It's not coming on night because
Taking immense pleasure in introducing today's curator, Dr. Richa Verma. She is Chief Scientific Officer at the Sudha Gopalakrishnan Brain Center at IIT Madras. She began her professional educational journey in 1997 to 2001, where she did her Bachelor in Science in Optometry at the Elite School of Optometry, Birla Institute of Technology and Science, Pilani, India. From 2003 to 2008, she did her postgraduate course in statistics for researchers and a PhD in vision science at the University of Melbourne, Australia. In 2012, she did her good clinical practice course for research professional at the Difference Network in Melbourne, Australia. From 2015 to 2016, she did her graduate certificate in higher education learning and teaching at the DK University, Australia.
She began her
final
career as a practice optometrist at the Slope Eye Hospital, New Delhi, India. In 2003 to 2007, she worked as a graduate researcher at the Retinal Structure and the Functional Laboratory at the University of Melbourne, Australia. From 2008 to 2010 as a research fellow and 2011 to 2012 as a postdoctorate fellow at the Department of Physiology at Monash University, in Australia. She worked as a facilitator from 2012 to 2013 and as a tutor from 2013 to 2014 at the University of Melbourne, Australia. And from 2013 to 15 as a tutor and from 2015 to 2017 as a faculty in vision science at the Deakin University, Australia. Later, she moved to India and joined the IIT as a senior project officer in the Teaching and Learning Center. And from 2020, she is the chief scientific officer for the Human Brain Project IIT Madras at the Sudha Gopalakrishnan Brain Center at the Sudha Gopalakrishnan Brain Center. And awards. She has won numerous scholarships from 2003 Melbourne International Free Remission Scholarship. From 2003 to 2007, she won the Science Faculty Scholarship. In 2006, she got the Melbourne Abroad Travel Scholarship. And she won the David Rice Paper Rating Award in 2008. She also won the Young Investigator Award in 2006 at the Optical Society of America for Vision Meeting Rochester, New York. And she has numerous publications in her name. More than 90 publications at peer-reviewed journals, which has more than 200 citations. Now I invite Dr. Kamala Devaji and Dr. A.C. Vasudevan for the presentation of the welcome, ma'am. Welcome, sir. Now is the time everyone is waiting for. I invite Dr. Richa Verma to give her the third Dr. Kamala Devaji oration.
Good morning and thank you all. It's a great honor and my pleasure to be here. My special thank goes to Dr. Devaji, Dr. Suresh, who was not here at this moment, and the director of VHS. I have to admit, it's a sad thing that I am next door at IIT Madras and work so closely with Dr. Suresh, but I am visiting this place for the first time. But I'm also grateful to Dr. Anil, who did show me the hospital and the rich history behind it. So once again, thank you all for your time and listening to what I have today to share with all of you. More importantly, it's very different experience when I speak to clinicians. Yes, we are working in the human brain, the fetal brain and the adult, which I won't be talking today. But I am looking forward to have some meaningful discussion and collaboration, because I know a lot of people are from the pediatric neuroscience community here, how we can work together and how this integration can happen. Now, without going too much into detail, I will elaborate a little bit more on what does the title mean, multimodal characterization of the fetal brain. So yes, today I am here as a chief scientist presenting the work, but there are many people who are involved behind this, and also a lot of our funding bodies, starting from the Office of Principal Scientific Advisor, Government of India, Pratiksha Trust, and as you see, in the last 5 years, we have got several philanthropy who is supporting this center. And I would like to thank our head, Professor Mohan Shankar, whom I would like to join next time here. But he is just next door, and he has been amazing in spearheading this entire effort. So what are we doing? And few of your young doctors on my way in did ask me, what do you mean by mapping the human brain? What is multimodal, etc. So the closest analogy which I always give is, we have had world maps for centuries. Even 400 years ago or 500 years ago, people did move across countries, continents using those world maps. Then came your Google map, which took you to street level, individual house level. What we are trying to achieve here, yes, you understand the human brain, you know the organization of the human brain, but one of the primary reasons why we have not been able to address a lot of neurological diseases, developmental disorders, etc., we do not have the human map as close as to going up to the street level, which is here going to the cellular level. And that is what we are trying to generate. And once again, we are at the center. The center is just, the work started 5 years ago. Soon after, so the funding came through in February 2020. And all of you know what happened in March 2020. The work started with 5 people in the group. And I'm very happy to say the physical center, the Sudha Gopalakrishnan Brain Center, is now 3.5 years old. And the center currently has 120 people from several backgrounds, and I'll talk more about it as I move forward in this talk. But we engage with a lot of clinicians, scientists globally to really what has happened behind to bring this work to you guys. And the goal of the center is to map the whole human brain, all the way from prenatal stage to adult. And even though the work has started with neurotypical brains, but we have not limited ourselves, given that we do want to look for translational effects sooner than later, and we are looking at several developmental disorders, neurodegeneration, ischemia, etc. And I'm happy to talk to any of you following this talk. Now the question is, if you look into core basic science research, specifically in the last 40-50 years, most of the human brain research has happened in animal models, be it mouse or monkey. And even when the molecular research came in, which is now quite prominent, most of the work is happening in animal model. Now, as all of you know, with this crowd, I don't have to convince you, the human brain has its unique genetic, molecular, cellular features, which can be only studied, and if you want to treat at any of these levels, you have to look at human brain. Now, animal models, organoids are extremely valuable. There is no second thought on it. When we talk about multimodal approach, we want to integrate information and knowledge from all of these different models, as well as imaging techniques, all the way from prenatal ultrasound, MRI, histology, and how do you get the information for a particular region, particular disease, or to understand any pathophysiology. So human disease cannot be studied adequately in animal model, which again I'm being very mindful in not saying that you don't have to study animal model. You have to, but you cannot try to treat human diseases just by studying animal model. And unfortunately, the approach of creating all diseases in mouse model, we have been able to treat a lot of diseases in mouse model, but the human brain diseases, as all of you know, we are still, long way to go. So one of the biggest challenge is why, and I myself did a lot of, the closest what most of you do here in pediatric neurosurgery is, I used to do electrophysiology in monkey brains, where we would put single cell, we'll put electrodes and do single cell recording from different brain regions, putting the animal on the ventilator. And no human is going to agree to do that. So if you want to look at physiological functions, you then rely on MRI, and I'll go back to that a bit later. So how do you study human brain? Doing neuroanatomy is great, and I will also acknowledge the field of human neurobrain anatomy after Brodmann and in the early 1900s, it sort of died. Died for two reasons. One, once MRI came into picture, most neuroscience community, neurosurgeon and neurologists started looking only at MRI, which is great because here you have an imaging tool which can tell in the living person where you see the problem is. But the challenge with MRI, even to the best clinical MRI, even if you use 7 Tesla MRI, which is still not there in India, you are not able to see at cell level. You can still get only the resolution best up to 1 millimeter. Now, when you start working on postmortem human tissue, especially the adult human brain, you are talking close to 1200 to 1500 cubic centimeter large tissue. Now, if you look at the animal research, you can do MRI even with 12 Tesla, get a very strong, robust signal to noise ratio, keep repeating it. You can do electron microscopy in a very small region, but how do you bridge this from cell level and a few nanometer or angstrom all the way to the entire brain volume? And that's the challenge which IIT decided to take it head on. Now, one of the things which I have highlighted when you work in the postmortem human tissue, how do you get high quality in a very short postmortem interval, getting consent because it's a sensitive issue. Most in the last 20 years, because of the molecular work, the focus has been on whether you want to work on the fresh frozen specimens, the size, volume, tissue processing, etc. And I will talk about the platform which we have built at IIT Madras. Before I get into this, I would like to get your attention on this particular publication which came in Nature in 1993 by Francis Crick, which all of you know very well. The title should tell you what the title was, Backwardness of the Human Neuroanatomy. And in this current era, a lot of journalists might even reject the title of it, what this person was trying to say. What this paper highlighted is, you cannot solve human diseases studying animal model. You need to build technology which can really look at human brain as a whole, but also detail at cellular level. And not that IIT Madras, Sudha Gopalakrishnan Brain Center came up in 1993, but 30 years down the line, when the proposal was put together, the thing was, West has been doing this for last 30-40 years. They've gone from mouse to monkey. If we are starting late, let's take the big risk and see if it pays off. And we started straight with human brain. And with that in context, we built the entire platform, and many people wonder how come this is not in a medical institute but at IIT Madras. So one of the key things you have to realize that just to process a whole human brain, we needed to build several technologies and you want to do it at a very high throughput, high fidelity, and in large scale. So you have to build all the equipment, the auto stainer, the cover slipper. We had to modify the large cryostat to really take thin slices of human brain. Now the story doesn't end there, because one of the key challenges in research is how do you make the data accessible? You want it to be digital data sets. Digitizing each of these human brain slices, one adult human brain, we are talking at the resolution at which we are digitizing, you're talking close to a few petabytes of data. And just to give you a little comparison, entire Google Earth is 1.5 to 2 petabytes. And we are talking one adult human brain data, what we are generating is equivalent to that. And very happy to say the entire team in the last 3.5 years, we have now processed close to 80 plus brains of different types, more in the fetal brain because of the smaller size. But more importantly, we have digitized almost half of this and made it available, which I will talk about it, as an open source to anybody working in the field. What do we do? So we want to map the whole human brain, and yes, ideally one would like to map it in a living human brain, but we know that's not going to happen. We start with the post-mortem MRI. What you see here is the post-mortem MRI of a fetal brain, and each of these brain what we acquire from our clinical partners, Mediscan and Savita Medical College with the fetal brain. Adult brain we have CMC, NIMHANS, Kilcock Medical College here, but I'm not going into detail there. We do the post-mortem MRI with 3 Tesla Sri Ramachandra Medical College, and thanks to Dr. Rajeshwaran, who has been an amazing collaborator with this. When we do these post-mortem MRI, we have to ensure this happens within 24 hours after the specimen has been put in the fixative, because the MRI quality deteriorates if the specimen has been in the fixative for too long. We have optimized the protocol based on what our goals are. Then the brain is extracted 2 weeks following the MRI. The brain then comes to the brain center, where we take the surface scan and print 3D models of every single brain. And if you're wondering why do we do that, these 3D models allows us to freeze the whole brain in one piece. And you want the alignment and as close as to what it was in the skull. So before I go into detail, I just want to give a little overview. Imagine a large brain even as 500 cubic centimeters. The goal here is to slice the entire brain at 20 micron thickness. You are then going to stain these 2000 plus slices of brain with different chemicals based on what you want to ask, which region you want to look for. You digitize this data and you're going to put all of it back in 3D by co-registering to the MRI what you got in post-mortem MRI, because that MRI gave you how this particular brain was sitting in the skull of that particular individual. So a whole brain, if I'm holding, my brain is sitting this way, there could be a slight angle difference. But if you are looking at 0.5 micron resolution, a slight angle difference will also make a lot of difference when you're trying to put all of this together. Hence, that particular process of freezing the whole brain using a 3D mold, it's literally the way you would use ice cream cast. We do the freezing in minus 80 degrees centigrade using dry ice and isopentane. And following that, the entire brain is cryosectioned on 10 micron thickness or 20 micron thickness. Now, often with all the medical doctors here, if you remember, the histology would be where you would pick a section using a traditional brush, then float it on a medium or a phosphate buffer solution, put it on a slide, then do the staining to look at whatever you are interested in. What we have designed there is the tape transfer technique, which allows you to lift the entire large section. So in fetal brain, you're still looking at 6 centimeter, but in adult brain, you're looking close to 16 to 80 centimeter, the entire brain with 20 micron thickness, lifted using this specific tape. Now, once it's lifted, you put it on the slide, and then we use UV curing light to unglue it. And at every section, we do a block face imaging, and then these are stained typically for 3 different series, which includes Nissl, HNE, myelin, and as you know, myelination doesn't start till 27-28 gestational week. We do several immunohistochemistry markers to study the different aspects of the different brain regions. Following that, the entire thing gets digitized, and then we start looking at this digital data to map, or what we call generate these atlases. And I'll go a little bit into detail. Once the entire regions have been marked, they are all put into 3D by co-registering to the MRI space. Now, this is the data which was released as, we call it Harmony. It's a Developing Human Brain Atlas resource to advance neuroscience internationally, and this was integrated with multimodal imaging. This was published in Journal of Comparative Neurology as a 1,000-page entire publication issue was this, and very happy to report currently this is the largest fetal brain from second trimester data set which has not been done before. Allen Brain Institute, if any of you know, has published this in 2022, but we have gone close to 10x to what was available earlier, and happy to say we are now collaborating with them as well. Now, what does this atlas mean and how any of you can use it? In this particular atlas, we have 5 specimens, but you can look at brain regions all the way from 14 gestational week to 24 gestational week. 4 of these specimens were sectioned in the sagittal plane. One of these brains, 22 gestational week, was sectioned in the coronal plane. Now, if you log on to our Open Dharani website, it's open access, any of you can look at it. You will get the details of each of these specimens, including their post-mortem MRI data sets. That's also being made open source. You can navigate through different brain regions. So suppose you are interested in looking at a particular cortex, the occipital cortex or parietal cortex, you can see the entire developmental trajectory. And this is very user-friendly, and I'll show you how it works, what you're going to see. This is a short video. So once you open this web page, you can choose which age group you are interested in across different modalities, which means the histology, MRI, and you can even look at the 3D reconstructed data sets. And I'm just going to show a short video so you can navigate through it later on. The bottom panel shows you the block face imaging, so you know which level you are looking at. This is what the different brain regions were identified, and since I'm looking at all the pediatric neurosurgery group here, we identified on our histology close to 500 brain regions, which included the nuclei as well as the white fiber tract. And this is what I mean, that when you want to go at street level, house level, you are going at more and more detail to show how many sub-regions exist even within any brain region like thalamus, hypothalamus, how many nuclei we identified. And I will give you the big picture on what you can do as a clinician or what we hope to do as we move forward with these data sets. Now, one of the important thing anybody here would relate to it. When we go in histology, you are always limited by the plane of section. If I decided to cut in coronal plane from front to back, that is what you are going to see. The benefit in MRI is you can get the whole 3D volume. You can see the brain in all three planes in any direction rotated. That's the benefit. What we have done with 3D reconstruction is any particular brain, say example the 24 gestational week, that particular brain has 2,500 histological slices. Each of these slices were put together to do the 3D reconstruction. So even though the brain was sliced in sagittal plane, it was annotated with different brain regions, close to 500 plus regions. Now you can rotate the brain and look at it in any plane, what you would do in MRI, but more importantly, you can click, zoom in, and go at the cell level. And that is what I mentioned at the start, that we are trying to close the gap from cell to volume and how you can navigate across different age groups, but also different diseases. And that's the big computational load, which, I just wanted to go back before I get onto this. Can I play this? There should be a play button. Yeah. So I don't know what would interest you. I did hear Dr. Anil talking about pituitary gland. Now, if you are interested in looking at the development of hypothalamus, you can look at all the 20 plus regions which we have identified, look at the cellular level, and now at the center we are looking more detailed investigation each of these region wise as we move forward, so we can create a developmental trajectory. And one of the things, because I'm speaking to pediatric neurosurgeons here, one of the big missing gap we have at the moment is 0 to 5 years. And as all of you know, 0 to 2 years is super critical in brain development, especially with the white fiber tract development. We are looking at doing this through MRI because getting the postmortem specimen is more challenging, but really creating atlas of development of the white matter tract across the whole brain from 0 to 2 years. And even the prenatal stage, as we know, the myelination doesn't happen. You have to rely on the DTI, what we have generated. And we want to put all of these data, so as you asked, these multimodal. We want to use the DTI data, our myelin data, then our cellular data, integrate all of this to generate these multimodal map to look at the developmental trajectory in normal and use that as a reference for all the disease conditions, what you're looking for. And And this is just one example of one of the brains. As you see, you can look at the detailed cellular histology. The colors are used are not the real missile colors, but just to highlight the orange and blue is the contrast, where the orange represents your white matter tract and more denser regions, and these are all put it back in 3D, and now you can look at the brain at cellular level. So the atlas, what you can access on the Dharni website, will give you access at cell level for all these 5 brains covering the entire second trimester. We hope to release the third trimester soon, and then as we move, we are going to do different age groups and compare it with developmental disorder. Now, if you're wondering why do we need to do all of this, what's the big picture here? We want to understand the developing human brain from prenatal stage all the way to adolescence, and then the aging brain. We want to understand at cellular level the neurogenesis, migration, neuronal differentiation, how the layers are formed, connectivity, which is a big challenge in human brain, and currently we are using all our data sets to understand each of these steps depending on which age group and which markers we are using. Our atlas will help you see how does the occipital cortex grows from 14 gestational week all the way up to 24, similar to parietal and orbital cortex. And I'm not going into detail here, but happy to discuss with any of you. Other things apart from we generating these atlas, we had few key findings. We were able to report the formation of the bed cells at much earlier stage than what it has been reported, especially in the motor cortex. We have also looked at the pregeniculate nucleus and laterogeniculate nucleus, how it rotates during development. And these are very important when you're doing prenatal ultrasound, to look at the normal reference atlas and then compare with what's happening in any sort of disorders. We have also identified several nuclei in the amygdala which have not been identified before, and development of habenalo-interpendicular tract, which most of you know is one of the most important very early tract which develops in the human brain. Apart from this, as I said at the start, we have not limited ourselves only to normal brains. We have been able to do this, and thanks to Mediscan and Dr. Suresh and his team, in different developmental disorders. The one paper which came out early this year is on holoprosencephaly. So we got 3 specimens from Mediscan and Savita Medical College, and as you would have seen, those specimens, especially with developmental disorders and fetal brain, are very fragile and soft. Just imagining processing the whole brain, putting it all in 3D itself is an engineering approach which IIT has been able to do it. Now, why holoprosencephaly is again known, if you look at the textbook, it has been studied for more than 100 years, very well classified, but we do not have any treatment. The only option is to a larger extent do the termination when it is diagnosed at early stage. So in this particular one, we have been able to show at cellular level in the whole brain, but also the regions which is like hippocampus, and I'll show it to you rather than just showing this. We were able to get the prenatal ultrasound. We then performed the postmortem MRI. We got the brain, extracted brain at our center. It went through the entire process which I described in terms of cryosectioning, then staining together. And this was what we refer as multimodal, multi-scale imaging, and each one of us had this important role. What you see here is what I just mentioned, the prenatal ultrasound, but we were able to compare through normal brain, same age match. So you can now look at the volume, the size, the gross anatomical structures which have been missing compared to normal brain, but also at cellular level based on the regions where you see there is either fusion or it's distorted. And one key example which we reported was, and holoprosencephaly is a condition which affected all 3 axes. It's multifactorial, and now we want to do the gene expression, lay it on top of it to really look at what really goes wrong in this particular condition. And this is just to give you an example. We noted fused ganglionic eminence, which has been reported before. We did few ISC markers. but we also saw the hippocampus and the caudate nucleus, which is, caudate nucleus is fused, hippocampus has a torsion. But when you look at cell level data sets, both of these regions appear normal, both confirmed by NISL, IHC and HL. So to give the big picture here, what we hope to connect with our clinical partners, when you are working on complicated brain diseases, you are doing surgery based on what is currently known. We hope these atlases, as we cover the entire lifespan of the human brain, with such detailed information put in 3D, the moment you are in your region of interest, you will be able to navigate that, how this region would look like in normal brain at that particular age, in ultrasound, in MRI, in histology, and then look at all what are the neurotransmitters which are released by that cells, what has gone wrong in that particular cell, and compare this in entire body. One of the things which is in the pipeline, and we hope to do this, is in this, again you might relate to it very well, we are doing a very detailed map of the human brainstem in the development as well as in adulthood. And if you look at the older atlas, they would have done a couple of markers, but we are doing with 10 different neurotransmitter markers at entire brainstem, put it in 3D, and then you can overlay on MRI, and especially if you're looking at cases of brainstem lesion. Now you will have more information on what cell types and which systems should be affected to give you the clinical symptoms which you're trying to address. That's the big picture, and hope that interests a lot of you in this crowd. And this is just another video to show the entire holoprosencephalic brain was again put it in 3D. The lines which you see are the stitching artifact, because these are all digitally reconstructed. And those floating pieces, what you see are just the noise which was there on the slides and what you can do. And once again, this is the first time a whole fetal brain, normal as well as in diseases, have been put digitally in 3D. And I have to say, our brain center is now getting a lot of global visibility, and we are becoming on our way now, because this type of work just happens across 2 or 3 centers across the globe. One of the earlier work, and once again this you would relate it to more closely, this is the very famous article by Chi et al. In 1970s, where they have given the timeline for the glial development. Now this is often used as a landmark to see the neurodevelopmental disorders, even in prenatal ultrasound or later on, if the gyrification has happened at that particular age or not. Any deviation suggests your neurodevelopmental disorders. Now in this age, if you look at 10 to 19 week, most of these are in form of, the callosal sulcus, but your calcarine fissure is developing much later. When we were doing this for our early second trimester brains, apart from looking at every region separately, I won't go into detail because this you might not be very much interested. But one of the important things what makes human brain is the gyrification, the cortical folding. And the cortical folding, if it's missed, especially in a lesencephalic brain, that's you would not have these cognition level the same, and even survival is not the same. Now, cortical folding in the neuroscience community has been a fascinating topic, interested by many scientists, but there are 2 groups contradicting each other. One group where they believe the cell level in the outer subventricular zone are guiding this cortical folding, and if you look at all the primary gyruses, they are conserved across different species and it does not vary. Whereas your tertiary one in human brain, if you look at those foldings do vary a lot. And there is the Pastor-Rakich group, which believes in that its gyrification is primarily because of the neuropil growth and it's not related to the cells in the outer subventricular zone. At this point, we are not in our lab or center, we are studying that at cellular level, but there was one MRI study which did not get much attention, which spoke about that the gyrification which has been used as a standard by Chi et al. Since then is it happens much earlier, and we were able to show this that these appears as infolds, and and this what you see is a 14 gestational week MRI, postmortem MRI done. We identified the key regions, and as you see, these infolds are quite visible in the sagittal plane. We then extracted the brain at a center, did the entire histological processing. What you see here in the top panel is the 14 gestational week brain. You see the same infold what you saw in the MRI, which you see in the bottom panel. There are two things I want to highlight talking about this. A, our platform is very similar to what you would get in. We do not see any tissue distortion to a larger extent. You can correlate with MRI at much closer level, but more importantly, you can zoom in at cell level and see what is happening at cells when you see these infolds. Now, because of the 3D construction, you can compare with MRI in any plane based on what your interests are, and the entire brain was 3D reconstructed. And just looking at the grayscale and the contrast, you can tell the resolution is much better here with the histological one, even though these are downsample images. We then started studying these infolds and how these sulcal depths are generated at cell level. And we reported that you are able to see the calcarine sulcus, the callosal sulcal, occipital, orbital, parieto-occipital sulcus at much earlier stages than what it was reported. We further investigated these sulci at using previous data sets in looking at coronal and horizontal plane. And more importantly, if you look at the gross brain, when you split in near the midline, you can see these folds are developing, which will then become the future sulci. And if you look at the brain on the top, at this age, it is a lesencephalic brain. None of the gyrification has started yet. Now, what do we do with all of these histological data sets? Of course, we have creating atlases. And if you go back to your high school, you will have world maps, India, America, Australia, and all of those were put together as a single atlas, and that's what you would navigate. So once we create maps of different brain regions, we put it all together, and that's the human brain atlas what we have generated. So tomorrow as a clinician, you want to know more about any particular brain region, you can go and look at these atlases. The beauty is now these are all digital data and made as an open source. We are looking at cell detection. We are building AI models to do cell counting in the whole human brain, and that should be out soon by end of this year. We are definitely looking at connectivity, but connectivity in human is more challenging. We are now looking at morphometrics. So if you look at your ultrasound, prenatal ultrasound, most of your diagnosis is based on volumes and measurements, the dimensions from normal versus abnormal. Here we are able to do that in 3D with histology and then give you the cellular details. In terms of analysis, we have to co-register each of these stacked histological section to MRI, and then we do the volume analysis using those data sets. And if you come to IIT Madras, which I would invite all of you, you are just next door, please come and see the work which is happening there. We are looking to engage with young minds who are interested. And every time you hear about interdisciplinary centers, if you come to that center, you will see how engineers, neuroscientists, doctors are working together, who understands each other's language. They know what we are talking, and this has really happened. This wouldn't have happened without this interdisciplinary approach. And I can say this with full honesty because I am a biology person. Today I am able to talk to you digital data sets, petabytes, registration, etc. I wouldn't be able to do this 5 years ago when you were speaking to me. I was very focused on my visual cortex and what we study as a biologist. So there's a very large data set, and one of the important things of generating such detailed data set is I am able to see certain patterns, or my team, and we are marking brain regions. But there are hidden patterns which my eye or your eye cannot see. That's where the AI will come into picture. And generating for a particular brain or diseases 5, 10 specimen large data sets is those pattern recognition which normal human eye will fail to do so. We are building AI models. We are building AI models to do the counting across the whole brain. In stroke now we have seen quite a good results. And the beauty of all of this is the brain processing, the equipment, and the digital platform, everything was built, developed in IIT Madras. Everything is in-house, and that is something we are very proud of. And hence I invite all of you to please come and engage with us. Write to me, speak to me, and we are looking for, enthusiastic brain. Since we generated this atlas, doing it manually means not like with on pen and paper using the software, but you have to identify these regions manually, 500 regions across 10,000 slices. That was a mammoth task. Now we have started doing, because we have already created so much of ground truth data, we are now doing automated atlas mapping, looking at brain regions, and this is what this video shows. And once we start doing this, we want to integrate across different modalities, so then you can look at cell level as well as regions, what you see in histology. And when you are able to do so, you can literally segment different brain regions, put it apart, which you would do as a physical model in your labs when you want to study each different brain parts. Now you can do all of this digitally. So we are hoping the next version of the atlas comes out, you will be able to type in and say how much does the thalamus or hypothalamus grow from second trimester to adulthood. As we create generator, it will give you volumes. You can click on it, look at cell level. How does the hippocampus change in holoprosencephaly again, corpus callosum and agenesis of corpus callosum, ventriculomegaly is one other thing we are studying. So you should be able to get as a user volumes, dimensions, etc. Click on the cell level data sets to really look at this reference atlas which we are generating. The entire pipeline, what we have built, and the goal here is to transform brain science driven by cutting edge high tech. What that means is integrating different modalities. We have also started the molecular wing, chemical, which is typically immunohistochemistry marker or ISH, MRI, integrate all of these data sets, and it's important to know each modality and each scale has its own role. You want to study a particular pathophysiology, you might need to go at micron level. You might want to study just looking at volume data sets to look at the overall morphometric changes. So every scale has its important, and this multimodal allows you to navigate and make data interoperable. How do you move from MRI to histology, histology to MRI, and bring it to ultrasound? With that, the platform allows us to study, I think I already said, interoperable data sets, and we need comparative data sets. Once again, when I am talking about human brain, I have several collaborators whom I work on mouse model, organoids, to integrate the data sets and important findings across diseases. And that's just some of the publications, but you can go on our website and see how each of these platforms was built, or rather each step within the platform was built. And just in 3 years, we are now strongly working with several collaborators in India and overseas, just to show the expansion which has happened. And as I said, I'm the one presenting the work here, but there are many, many people behind it, and I cannot thank my clinical partner. I just wish Dr. Suresh was here to see my personal acknowledgement. And as all of you know him, he's a super enthusiastic person. So if he comes to the brain center, he sits there for 2 hours looking at each of these images, and every time he says, if I have time, I'll come every day. And it is their effort where they are able to acquire high quality postmortem tissue for us to be able to do so. So thank you once again, and I'm happy to take questions. My acknowledgement to all our funding bodies, and as I said, there are several collaborators. That's a 2 years old photograph. The team has expanded, and to this crowd, I don't have to explain what IIT campus looks like. I'll just leave you with this. Am I on time?
Usha would like to read a short poem.
Very first, thank the orator for such an illuminating, though highly technical subject. We could understand that it's relates to the structure. But here, I've got a small sonnet which I took from Dr. Kamala's file, and I'd like to read it. Perhaps it refers to the functional aspect of the brain. This is the sonnet by Khalil Gibran of children, written about children. Your children are not your children. They are the sons and daughters of life's longing for itself. They come through you, but not from you. And though they are with you, they belong not to you. You may give them your love, but not your thoughts. For they have their own thoughts. You may house their bodies, but not their souls. Therefore, their souls dwell in the house of tomorrow, which you cannot visit even in your dreams. You may strive to be like them, but seek not to make them like you. For life goes on, not backward, nor tarries with yesterday. So this is something to do with the brain, and another aspect of how after coming into the world we react to the environment around us is what I suppose it conveys. Anyway, this lecture has been a very illuminating lecture, though highly technical and very clearly brought out how the tracing the structure of the brain and with such technical devices and all. This sharing of knowledge for the benefit of humanity is what is wanted in an oration like this. And thank you very much for all of you who have come to attend this oration.
Can I request the Blaster and the Pavilions to please come on the dais to honor the meeting? After that, I would request every one of you to join us for lunch. We will be going there.
It is both an honor and a privilege to deliver the vote of thanks on this momentous occasion.
Kamala Devaji Oration for Paediatric Neurosciences. At the outset, I would express my deepest gratitude to Dr. Richa, Verma, the Chief Scientific Officer at IIT Madras, for a talk on multimodal characterization of fetal rate and atlas of fetal growth, or we are seeing today. It just continues to push the frontiers of neuroscience, and we are truly fortunate to witness it today. Also, warm welcome to the presence of Dr. Joseph T. Williams. For this inspiring presidential address, which so beautifully set the tone for today's proceedings. My heartfelt appreciation also goes to Dr. M.C. Vasudevan sir and Professor Dr. Anil Patel for successfully organizing this oration year after year with unwavering dedication. Special thanks to our postgraduate Dr. Anil Jackson and Dr. Haridharan for their informative contribution to this program. I thank all our dignitaries, HODs, IIT faculties present here, the staffs of ALNC, staff of VHS, and all the guests present today. It's because of your continuous support, this oration becomes so meaningful and impactful. A big thanks to the IT department, the volunteers, housekeeping department for the seamless behind the scenes work, ensuring smooth running of this program. And lastly, I would to acknowledge the Devaji's family, especially Dr. Sudha Devaji, whose vision, generosity and support have made this oration a series possible. Such a commitment continues to inspire a generation of neuroscientists, clinicians and researchers. So let us carry forward the spirit of innovation, learning and collaboration that we witnessed today. And thank you once again. As Dr. Anil Pandey said, we will invite you all for the lunch, as well as you can visit our museum, which is on the second floor of ALNC. Thank you.
Please stand for the national anthem.
जनमन अधिनायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड उत्कल गंगा विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्चल जलधि तरंगा तव शुभ नामे जागे तब शुभ आशीष मागे गाहे तब जय गाथा जन गण मंगलदायक जय हे